talking with people about how to have a great retirement. This is the Rock Your Retirement Show. We don't talk about money, but we talk about almost everything else you need to rock your retirement. Now, here's your host, Kathy Klein.
Hi, this is Kathy, founder of Rock Your Retirement. I started this show because many baby boomers think that retirement is all about money, and it's not. Think about it. It's very difficult to go from spending 2,000 or more hours a year doing something to zero. For the first 6 months, it's fun, but then many of you hit a wall. Many divorces happen after retirement because the couple isn't used to spending so much time together. Depression can also set in. We want to help prevent that, so that's why I started this show. Today's guest is Jim Sweeney, who founded the #1 manufacturer's rep firm in Florida and built the company to annual sales exceeding $50 million at its height. He got his business start by working for the former Eckerd drugstore chain as a merchandise manager and then as an import manager. Eckerd drugstore was purchased by CVS. His top accounts included Home Shopping Network, Miami-based export distributors, and Tech Data Corporation, a $30 billion computer distributor. Top product lines represented included Yamaha, JVC, Sony, Ericsson, Ricoh, Belkin, Energizer, Verbatim, Fellows, and Kingston. He sold Sweeney Sales in May of 2005. So what's he doing now? Jim Sweeney has created his trademarked MIKE cartoon sports character to become the first universal animated brand in sports. Besides penning 800 blogs, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes, Jim has published 38 MIKE sports comic books. All of the ebooks contain clever sports comics and lighthearted commentaries on unique observations about sports. The 58-year-old Sweeney still participates in sports, slowly, as a masters athlete and serves as head of USA for FIMBA, the governing body for masters basketball tournaments around the world. So, Mike, does that pretty much sum it up?
Yes, it does. Thanks for the great introduction.
Well, thank you for coming on this show. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate it too, and I'm excited.
Well, good. So tell me, you were an executive that owned this sales agency with over $50 million in sales. Did you plan to retire when you sold that, or did you plan on creating this cartoon character?
I think I've always had the thought and the idea of creating this sports character by the name of Mike. Mike's real name is Mike Rafone. He's a microphone. We call him the ultimate talking head on sports. And yeah, I'm a 58-year-old guy. So on January 3rd, 1958, when I was born, I felt like Mike was coursing through my DNA at the time. And he was always with me. Every time I go to sleep at night, Mike was with me. When I got up in the morning, thoughts of Mike were in my head. And I just felt like I had to bring him to life. And I was very fortunate that my wife and I were co-owners of Sweeney Sales. We did extremely well, quietly here in Florida. And we just wanted to do something different. But the different needed to be bold, courageous, and something that we felt could have a positive impact on culture. And that's why we birthed Mike and we brought him to fruition.
Did you start thinking about how you were going to do this while you were still working? Or was there a break between the time that you sold the agency and the time that Mike appeared?
Every day when I had the agency for the last couple of years, I thought about Mike and I thought about doing something that was different. In the agency, I represented about a dozen different computer manufacturers, and I primarily called on 2 multi-billion-dollar accounts here in Florida. So my business process was very systematic and it kind of thwarted all creativity. And I was a creative guy. I just had this creative bent and I was just begging to do something that would help me exercise the creativity that I felt that I had. So over a period of time, I transitioned out of one thing, which was selling computer widgets, into writing blogs, penning ebooks, writing scripts for podcasts and for animated shorts. And it wasn't something that I did in which I just flipped the switch and went cold turkey. It was a transitionary process.
So would you say that you are currently retired and doing your retired love, or would you say that you are in another business now?
I'm in another business. I probably qualify for retirement age And after exiting from the previous business I had, I could retire, but I would never want to retire. If I'm 90 years old, I'm still going to be working. And I'm still going to be getting up every day with a passion, with a lot of, as my father would say, spit and vinegar, and, doing something that I love. And fortunately, I found at this chapter in my life something that I absolutely love. And when I get up every day, I look forward to going to work. But something, I don't consider it work. I had an Uncle Joe that said, you never work if you love what you do. And that's where, I find myself in life right now.
So you really don't need the money. You do this out of your passion.
You could always use the extra money to do things, maybe differently, a little bit more robustly or flamboyantly. You can get a fancier car, go on a more luxurious trip, build a bigger house. But I do what I do because I love what I do.
That's great. So I took a look at your blog, and it looks like you actually blog several times a week, if not daily. And so that's one way I would say that you're rocking your retirement, by creating this blog. I mean, how many 58-year-olds have a blog?
True.
Probably not many.
True. But something, when I say we, my wife and I are both content creators, and she helps edit, my books and a number of my blogs before I hit publish. And we go a couple times a month to different e-marketing related seminars or meetups within the Tampa Bay area here in Florida where we live. And you would be surprised as to how many older, and when I say older, let's just say 40 plus, 50 plus, even 60 plus people attend these things because they find that, there's just so much that you can learn that's internet related, especially blog specific. And they have passions, they have dreams, they have hobbies, and they want to bring them to life. And they want to be able to exercise maybe their creative bents that they hadn't done working, a corporate job that precluded them from doing it. So we run across people that share the same common interest and passion that we do all the time when we go out to these meetups or these webinars or seminars.
I love that. When I was doing my research for the show, I did a Google search on your name, and I found another Jim Sweeney who does a blog. And it looks like I didn't spend a lot of time reading it because I could tell right away that it wasn't you, but it looks like he has multiple sclerosis or muscular dystrophy or something like that. And he's blogging about his experiences with just the things that happen to him on a daily basis because of his disease. So you're right. You don't have to be a certain age. You don't have to be even healthy, it looks like. I thought that was very interesting considering the life that you lead versus the life that the other Jim Sweeney leads.
I think that's great. I have never come across this guy because I come across a lot of other Sweeneys. It's a fairly common name. But for this man to do what he's doing, knowing that he has the physical condition, I think he could be such an inspiration to so many other people. So I applaud the guy.
I do too. That's one of the reasons why I have this show. I've actually categorized your show in the areas of adventure, travel, health, and spirit and soul. So let's start with your basketball experience. What is the Francis Pomeroy Naismith Award?
Back in 1980, I was voted top NCAA men's basketball player in the nation under 6 feet tall. And I played 4 years at Boston College from 1976 to 1980. And I was a 3-time captain for the team.
Wow. You don't hear about a lot of people who play basketball that are under 6 feet tall. How tall are you?
5 feet 11 and 7/8. I actually got measured by the committee to confirm the fact I was under 6 feet tall. I think big, I play big, and I have a big heart. Let's put it that way.
When you were in college, did they have those machines that hang you upside down and stretch you out? What are those called? I have one and I can never remember what they're called.
No, they didn't.
Inversion table.
No, they didn't. But you know something? My number in college was number 11 because I felt if I wore number 11, I could look taller.
Oh, okay. That's good.
I don't want to be 88.
You don't want to be 88.
Yeah,
no.
exactly.
Did you go anywhere after you graduated college?
Yes, I did. I played for a season in Sweden, but I'm 58 years old and this is over 35 years later. And I have never stopped playing basketball. I still play today. And in your introduction, I noticed how you paused and you accentuated when you said, yes, Sweeney still plays basketball slowly. And Kath, I do. I play 3 times a week. I played last night. I'm going to play on Thursday, and we may play twice this weekend because our old man's team has a tournament coming up in 2 weeks, and we want to be prepared.
Basketball is not also a slow sport like golf. I consider it to be a strenuous, not that golf, all you golfers, please don't send me hate mail, but it's you sweat when you play basketball and you don't necessarily sweat when you play golf unless you're playing in the heat.
Yes, that's true. We always play. I live in Florida, and during the warmer months, we always play in air-conditioned gyms. We don't play outside anymore because when you get to our age, if you play on asphalt, the pounding just does such a number on your body that you can't walk right for a couple days afterwards.
And that's not healthy.
No, it's not at all.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that you're still active. And that's, like I said, that's one of the areas that we look at as health as well. One of the other things that we talk about is spirit and soul. And you were involved early in life in a scandal, and you were able to get over that scandal, have a great career, and live your life. Some of our listeners may be involved now in some sort of issue with their children, their parents, their husbands or wives, where they feel like they can't get over something. How were you able to get through that period of your life?
Just knowing the type of person, I've always been. Also, surrounding myself with the right people that would speak positive things into my life. The scandal that you're referring to is called the Boston College point shaving scandal, and it happened during the 1978-1979 season. It's been well documented in books, on radio shows. I was on a couple radio shows just within the last, few weeks because of the NCAA March Madness tournament. There's always talk of the scandal that surfaces at that time. There was an ESPN 30 for 30 documentary. Actually, it played again last night. I noticed it when I was, flipping through my preview section on my television remote. But it was a scandal in which I was involved in. I was never brought up on charges. I was never offered immunity, but my name will always be associated with what had taken place that involved, some of the most notorious organized crime figures on the East Coast at that time. And as a matter of fact, the scandal is mentioned in the movie Goodfellas. And it's a story that probably is never going to get stopped being told because now there's talk of books. There's a couple of people that are floating scripts in Hollywood. And this is something that happened over 35 years ago, yet it always seems to come up, especially during March and April when you have the NCAA college basketball tournament. But to answer your question, I've never deviated really my path in life, my thought life, the people that I've associated with, on a real close basis. I've always known the type of individual I've been. And I've never looked back. I've never said, hey, we all make mistakes. We all find ourselves in situations that we would regret, but you have to move forward. It's not what happened in the past. You can't change that, but you can determine or dictate what's happened to your life in the future. That's the type of attitude I think I've carried for my entire life. And fortunately, I met my wife when we were 19 years old. So almost 38 years ago. We've been married for 35 years, and having her as a life partner, will help always buoy me if I'm lacking in confidence. And she's also a very good protector in the event that someone, wants to connect me, very quickly with the scandal and say something that really is out of line. I mean, she can sniff those things out.
She's a lioness.
Yeah, she's just a wonderful lady.
So she was one of the reasons why you were able to get through it, was with her support?
Yes. And I've always believed that, there's a plan for my life, for her life. And that was a part, I guess, of the plan to help steel me as an individual. When I say steel, S-T-E-E-L, is to make me stronger, to make me, understand that evil lurks in the world and people will look to take you down. And as a result of that, I think that I'm stronger, I'm wiser, and I'm a lot more mature.
What advice would you give to my listeners who don't have a loving wife like you did? What advice would you give to them if they're going through some painful times in their lives? How can they get through it?
I would say focus on the good. Focus on, the dreams that you have. Focus on what you would like to see, transpire in your life. Don't dwell on the negativity. Don't dismiss it. Certainly learn from it. Learn from, some of your heartaches or from some of your mistakes or, some of the unfortunate things that you may have walked through in life. but don't dwell on it. I mean, that will only drag you right back down in a hole if you were in a hole to begin with. And always look forward and look to move ahead.
That's great advice. Speaking of moving ahead, it was pretty adventurous and creative for you to create these books, blogs, and a character. How old were you when you sold your business?
Oh, 7 or 8 years ago, because we had done something prior to bringing Mike to fruition. My wife and I had also published children's books. We put together a 14-song CD. We imported stuffed animals from Asia. We also, represented different musical artists. And Mike was not something that I had done immediately after transitioning from selling computer parts into the entertainment business. It was a gradual process that had taken a couple of years before I started doing it full time and not doing anything else other than Mike.
Do you think that in a way, Mike is your persona?
Oh, absolutely. He's my alter ego. He's known as an alter ego character. And for listeners, they're thinking, what is this Mike? He's a cartoon character. That's a microphone. And he wears a bow tie. He sits atop a bass. His name is etched into the bass, M-I-K-E. He's got blue eyes. Yeah, he sits not only on a bass, but in a cradle. And we believe that he will be the first ever animated brand to transcend all sports. I'm talking about an animated character that would rival the popularity of like a SpongeBob or a Bart Simpson or a Mickey Mouse, but in the world of sports. Because there are no animated sports characters that have ever been hugely successful as a national or a global icon.
I've read a couple of Mike's blogs, and he's a little bit feisty.
Mike has a lot of angst, and I have a lot of angst too, because I have so much energy. Now, I realize I go to sleep, by 10 o'clock every night. Our daughter says, Dad, why can't you make double digits tonight? And I said, no, Kaylee, I gotta go to sleep. And I get up at the crack of dawn. Once I have my coffee, if it's 6:30, as soon as the light shines, in our bedroom, and I could always tell when it's light outside, I can't sleep. I got to be up. I have to be up and I have to be doing things. And Mike is a calling. Mike's my passion. And I believe that he's a part of not just my destiny, but my wife's destiny. And I believe that I have a lot of things that I could articulate to the world through the voice and the character of Mike. And I never envisioned myself like being a sportscaster or a sports writer or somebody that would show up on TV. And I feel like I could do it through my character. And I think the character has a way of even saying things and doing things to convey a message in a really neat, clever way that doesn't offend people. And I know that you can offend anyone, anytime, anywhere, but people really can't stay offended at a cartoon character.
Is that how The Simpsons and what's that other cartoon that says some pretty outrageous things? Is that how they get away
South
with
Park.
it?
Mike is
yes.
Mike is not as edgy, and we determined that we developed a core set of ethics and values for the character that since we've had Mike blogs or tweets or Facebook posts or animated shorts or podcasts or whatever or ebooks. Mike has never used profanity. He's never said anything like of a sexual nature. And I realize you can always offend somebody, but the intent with Mike is that he's an innocent. He's never going to attack somebody just for the sake of attacking him. At the end of the blog, Mike will always say, and something uplifting instead of just kicking someone when they're down and letting them stay there and say, this is Mike. So Mike's always got the hand out to say, hey, come on, let's go. I want to bring you up to another level.
Well, that's good. I'm really glad that you've created this uplifting character who can give you the bad news, but mix it in with some good.
Yes.
But
he's a lot more than that. He's more entertaining than anything else. And I try and intersperse some of his entertaining blogs with, if there's something that's just so bothers me, somebody's attitude, somebody's behavior, something, irresponsible that someone had said, then Mike will comment about it in one of his blog posts. But for the most part, he's all about entertainment and seeing things and reporting on things that are at the tip of your nose that you really don't talk about until Mike comes along and brings it to life.
Now, Mike has a podcast too. Is that something that he does every week as well, or is it more writing or
it's more
talking?
Writing and ebooks. I've published 38 ebooks. 25 we sell on Amazon, and 13 I give away for free. And we have people every day that are downloading multiple ebooks, from our website. But the podcast is something I started, then I put it on the shelf, and I put it on the shelf for a reason. There was some interest in bringing our podcast to life in animated shorts. So what I've been doing, instead of coming out with new podcasts, I've been working with an illustrator animator in bringing several of these podcasts to life for a top sports website. Now, I don't know, I can't guarantee that that would come to fruition, but I believe it will. And when it does, I think American sports fans will fall in love with a brand new sports character that they've always been waiting for, because Mike will entertain. He's just flat out entertaining.
Well, good luck with that. And do us a favor. After this show is released, because I interview people in advance of releasing the shows, go to the show note and post a link when the animated character is up and running so that our viewers can take a look at him. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thanks for asking, and thanks for giving me the opportunity on that.
Oh, we'd love that. Are you kidding? I think my listeners would love to see a cartoon animation of
and
Mike.
It's Mike in a studio, and Mike has his own studio. It's called Studio M, with LCD screens in the back, because the LCD screens could house, different logos, video content, or images if we opt to go that route. The first couple animated shorts that are coming out that Mike is narrating, one is called Immensely Important and Consequential Games. And Mike goes through a retinue of like garbage can horse, is where people are trying to shoot wadded up balls of paper into a basket, banking them off the water cooler, football with a book of matches that you play on a tabletop. And they're all silly games. And guys, women too, they can make a game out of anything. And they become very impassioned that they want to win a game that's immensely important to them, but totally inconsequential to others.
Wait a minute. What's the name of the late night talk show host? I'm very bad with
Jimmy
names.
Kimmel?
Yeah, it's kind of like his games.
Sort of, yes. But all this stuff is just birthed out of, my head. It's like the brain cells are always moving. They're always working.
That's
and
good.
I come up with stuff constantly. It's just trying to find enough hours in the day to be able to sit down and bring the stuff to life.
Well, when you learn new things, which even though you had thought about Mike for a long time, starting the blog, starting the character that was learning something new, they've done studies, and that actually creates new synapses in your brain. So,
well, that's interesting.
Yeah, one thing leads to another.
Yes.
So,
but I'm so excited about the animated shorts because they're different. I just have this reservoir of ideas that I want to be able to articulate and entertain people. A couple of the animated shorts are, one's called the Siren Song of Sports, and it's the ESPN theme song, da-da-dun, da-da-dun. And Mike pontificates about how powerful it is, how it woos people in, how it can make you stop whatever you're doing in order to tune in to ESPN Sports Center. Or there's another one where Mike wants all sports fans to lobby the commissioner of baseball to quit spitting in baseball. So they're all silly things having to do with sports. And because it's animated, and animation is a very cumbersome process and also expensive process, it's not as if I could report on what happened in last night's game or even last weekend's games. Is I have to do things that are of an evergreen nature, where they're something that would be just as funny and as relevant and pertinent today as it will be maybe a year or two from now.
Kind of like my content.
Yes, exactly.
I can't wait to see the animations.
Oh, you'll have it probably within the week. We have several of them that we've done in the past, and we're doing more. And the new stuff, I think, is a lot more clever.
Okay, well, if we get the animations before the show airs, which is probably going to be the case, then we'll post them in the show notes.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then after that, if you want to go to the blog post itself and update our listeners, then please do that and post links to new shorts as they're released. That would be great. We would love that.
To do that.
Okay, good. Well, we're coming up to the end of the interview. And there's always a couple of questions that I like to ask because it helps my listeners. And the first one is, what do you wish you would have known before you sold your agency? And I'm going to say you're retired. Even though you've got this great love and passion, I'm going to say you're retired because you don't fully need the money. So what do you wish you would have known before you sold your agency?
That I could have brought Mike to life 15, 20 years ago. instead of having to wait to bring into life just a few years ago.
So you don't have to wait to do your passion.
No, not at all. It's
until-
I wish I could have just stepped forward many years before, because I love what I do. I absolutely love it, and you can't put a price tag on that. And in my previous business, sure, we were successful. We were really successful quietly here in Florida, because it's not like I was the CEO of a big company, but I had developed a formula of representing computer factories to big accounts and making a very healthy income, quietly. And that was great for a time, but it didn't have purpose. Mike has purpose. Mike has huge purpose.
Well, what would you say to somebody who is working 40 or 60 hours a week, but they still have a passion? How would they be able to start something before they retired?
No, I would say that they can start something. I would never advise anybody just to go cold turkey. I mean, that would take a special individual under specialized circumstances. I would encourage anybody that has a passion to look for ways to exercise that passion. Look for ways to hone it, refine it, bring it to a whole new level, perfect it, get the kinks out, the bugs out, and continue to do that on the side. And look for some type of an exit strategy. Start to pen it. And, then after 3 months or so, look back at what you wrote down on a piece of paper and see if it's still applicable at that time. And if changes need to be made, then make those changes and move on from there.
Great advice. Great advice. Last question. If you were sitting across from a retiree who currently feels stuck in their life, what advice would you give that one retiree to help get them unstuck, to maybe inspire or motivate that person?
Just follow after something you love doing. Don't hesitate. Don't fear. Don't worry about it. If you love it, you're always going to love it. It's inside you. It's a part of who you are. It's coursing through your bloodstream at that time. So just look for ways to do it. So what if you make a mistake? You correct that. But just follow after your passion, and I believe you're already on the road to success.
Thank you so much for coming on our show today. We really appreciate it. And for our listeners, don't forget that we do interviews with retirees, authors, and bloggers, and interviews with people who can help you with sandwich generation issues. So we'll see you next time on Rock Your Retirement.
Thanks for listening to the Rock Your Retirement Show. If you are rocking your retirement or know someone who would make a great guest on our show, please send us an email at podcast@rockyourretirement.com.
Are you buried in information regarding Medicare health insurance? Have you gotten a 4-inch stack of mail regarding Medicare? Do you wish that you could find an experienced agent who works with multiple companies to assist you or your loved one? You're in luck. Medicare Quick starts each prospective client with a 20-minute informational webinar that describes the difference between Medicare Advantage plans and Medicare Supplement insurance plans. Then, after you understand what type of plan matches your lifestyle, we help you decide which company suits your individual needs. Call 866-445-6683 for more information, or go to the website medicarequick.com. Mention the word rock and we'll send you a cool stylus pen just for calling. Medicare Quick is not connected with the federal Medicare program. Medical insurance licensed in the states of California, Florida, Nevada, and Texas, and Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plan service areas vary. California license number 0797566.